Hello there, I'm Leslie Juvin-Acker and this is my organic garden. Are you ready for a tour? Come on in. So I moved into this garden in 2016 and it has been an 8-year process of turning what I call a rock garden into a luscious landscape. This garden has over 8 varieties of fruits and edibles, and we also have edible things like lemongrass and Australian brush cherries and different kinds of berries. So this front garden area is what I call my meditation garden. I sit on the front porch, on the front deck of our home, and I sit and I look at the gorgeous waterfall and the meditation statues, and it just connects me more to nature. I also love potted plants, and I had my husband build all of these structures on the property. So instead of diamonds and jewels and shoes and cars and purses, I asked him to build me structures to house my roses, my potted plants, my jasmine, and all my other things. So I have a variety of specimens on this property. As you can see, the butterflies flying by, and I have collected, I don't even know, I've lost count of the variety and the species of flowers and different types of plants here that are native and non-native. So come and join me and I'll show you. So this here is one jasmine vine that I got in 2015 from a Home Depot, and it was this big, and now it has climbed all the way up this arbor, and I mixed it in with 2 Joseph's Coates vines, and these are so prolific, they grow like crazy every year. And the jasmine is a star jasmine, and it grows all the way now, and it took almost 10 years for this jasmine to grow. So you're looking at one jasmine plant all the way over here. And my husband Frank built this for me for a gift for a holiday. I want to say it was a Christmas. And in here I have my little berry bushes. When I was a little girl growing up in Jacksonville, Florida, my parents in the 90s, obviously they leave their kids outside. So I spent hours and hours picking blackberries wild on the side of the road. And this memory was one of my most treasured memories. So for my own children, I planted a variety of blackberries and raspberries and boysenberries for my kids, and they love coming out here and picking organic, delicious, juicy, giant blackberries, and I love that for them. So we also have right here some water plants, some water hyacinths. They're very beautiful. And I used to keep them in a fountain, but they grow so prolifically and so much that I actually just keep them in an above ground bucket, and it's easy for me to water them. And one of the other things about having architectural interest in a garden is that you can just get anything and your plants will grow right on top of it, and that's what I love. And not to mention, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can see with this rose vine here, I just put 2 sticks and some grading, and voila, you have something very simple. And gardening doesn't have to be expensive. So let's go. As you can see from this sign, this is my hummingbird crossing sign. There are hummingbirds in San Diego, and you have to nurture them if you really want them to come and live in your garden. And one of my greatest pleasures is planting a variety of plants that feed them, nourish them, hide them. I have found little teeny baby hummingbird nests in this magnolia right here, and they're everywhere. They're just everywhere, and I love that. So you can see here I've got all variety of shade plants, roses, and it just creates this oasis, this place to get away from everything. We live in the center of Vista, California, and we have lots of people here. We probably have 90,000 people who live in Vista alone, and there's cars everywhere, there's people everywhere, but when you come into this garden, you feel like you escape all of that. So just another plant here, you can see butterflies love this. We have about 10 species of butterfly that come and they visit here, they live here, they eat here. We have monarch butterflies that come from Canada and Mexico, and they nourish themselves here. They get water here. Look, we even have a rock dove right there on the barbecue, and they come here and get nourishment. They get water from the various fountains that we have. This grass here is my husband's work of art. I can't take credit for this. He spent many, many days and many, many years perfecting the art of grass. And this is St. Augustine grass, and I grew up in Florida, and at 9 years old and 10 years old and 11 years old, I used to come out and water, fertilize, and mow my parents' lawn, and it was St. Augustine grass. And I have so many memories of being on St. Augustine grass, and the experience of being barefoot on this grass is just like no other. It's like a shag carpet. And so we've had this done 2 years ago, and this is 2 years growth, and it is just gorgeous. It offsets kind of like this wild nature, and it kind of domesticates it. And this is where our kids play. This is where our dogs play, and they love it. So continuing on, you can see we have a variety of succulents here. And these were all gifts from my friends Larry and Louise Balma. They gave us several truckloads from their estate in Oceanside, California. And I considered that their investment in me and in my family and in our property. And I just love that. This is a fire stick. This is a foxtail agave. You have a variety here of different kinds of succulents. And they have different heights, and they tell different geometrical stories, and you put them together and you create a tapestry. And what this does is create a wall of privacy for you. And all you have to do every year is just trim them back, shape them, and they just never disappoint. You can trim succulents like bonsai, and they're just so beautiful. And what I actually did here was I just mixed this in with a hibiscus plant. This was a friend from my friend Michael Armstrong, and he gave this to me as a little baby plant, and now it's way over my head. It's over 6 feet tall now. And we have an oak tree, which is native here. We have pea bushes here, and the bugs and the bees. You have bees literally right next to my hands, and they're just eating. So we have a bee refuge, butterfly refuge, bird refuge. We have over 10 species of birds that come here every year to nest. We have hummingbirds, we have California quail, we have owls, we have hawks, we have rock doves. We have so many types of birds here. And they come right here and they get some shade, some refuge, and they get some water. And what you notice in this fountain here that my husband Frank dug for me, it was an act of love, because the ground here is composed mainly of granite, and it took him forever and a jackhammer to dig this hole for me. And we cover it with a wire vinyl mesh because we noticed that because we had so many birds coming here in the heat of the summer, that sometimes they would drown. And so we cover it up, and now that they can walk and they can get showers and they can drink in safety and security, because it's not pleasant for me to find birds perishing in the water. And we just love it. Another thing that we have here, another structure my husband lovingly built for us on our wedding anniversary, I think it was our 14th wedding anniversary, was this arbor and the swing. And he built this all by hand just for me to sit and look at the fountain, to watch our kids and our dogs play, to see our beautiful home and all of the plants here. And continuing on, you can even see this whole other wall of succulents right here. Again, more gifts from the Balmas. This here was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. You could see right through. And now you have this gorgeous cascade of succulents that in the winter time, which is when succulents really come to life, you have a variety of fruits from the cactus, you have flowers coming from the plants, and they just proliferate. They proliferate so much that every year I have to cut them back, and I give thousands of dollars worth of succulents away to the community, to my neighbors, to my friends, so they can put them in their gardens. And what I feel about gardening after learning over 8 years of organic gardening, is that gardening can teach you about investing. It can teach you about the gifts that people give you, and then you plant them and then you get the fruit from them. And eventually you have extra and you can give it away and you can put it somewhere else. And honestly, I learned all investing principles financially from gardening. And I think, I don't know if I could write a book about it, but I think if you start gardening, you'll learn about the principles of investing, and you'll see that nature has everything to teach you about building a good, healthy, prosperous life. So this is our back garden here. We have a water fountain. The birds love the water fountains. We have the shade area, and the house and the garden is mimicked like a lot of the gorgeous gardens in Europe. I have traveled the world. I went to Switzerland, France, Italy. I went to Canada. I went to Mexico, and and all over the United States, and I studied gardens. And I spent years and years and years doing research and going, what makes a healthy garden? One of my most favorite media about gardening and organic gardening specifically is about a documentary published. It was made in 2018, and it was about a farm in LA that was just like my garden, a rock garden, and they learned organic and multiculture and multi-crop, and they went from rocks in LA, dry and arid, all the way to prosperous. And when the rains fell, instead of being washed away, their garden remained and stood intact, while everyone else's farms, monocrops, monocultures, were washed away and destroyed. And that was so inspiring to me. And one of the biggest tips in organic gardening and having a mature garden is you have to wait 7 years. So this is 7 years of 16-hour days of gardening. For me, it was 16 hours, and I would be covered head to toe in dirt. And so tired and so achy, and you just have this messy yard that seems like doesn't give you anything. But after the 7th year, you start to have everything. Everything that you see around you. Fruits, trees, plants, everything that you could possibly want is given to you after 7 years. Now this is a mature garden, it's 8 years old, and look what you have. You have a variety of plants, you have a variety of fruit-bearing plants, and let me just show you something. You begin to test your abilities. So here is a fuchsia. These are very difficult to grow outside. I put this in the ground here. After studying, fuchsias need shade, they need moist ground. I put this here right under this climbing rose. And within a year, now it's taller than me. It goes over 7-8 feet, and now it's happy. And you begin to test yourself. You begin to test your abilities and see, what else do I have within me to bring to life? So I hope you enjoyed this tour of my garden. I have one more little spot for you. This is kind of my covered patio area where I put my specimens, my plants, my pots. And as you can see, there's more flowers here for the bees and the birds to eat. And this is where I love to put my potted plants, things that are kind of like work of art. And you can display them. And you begin to test yourself. And if you go to the grocery store and you get an orchid, and then it dies down, you cut it down, and guess what? You set it outside, keep it in the shade, the cool air in the night in San Diego will reactivate the orchids, and you get orchid flowers again. So there is no loss when you learn to garden. And you have a variety of plants. And we have gorgeous birds that sing, and they activate the flowers, and they open them up, and they just attract some more life. Gardening for me is exercise, it's mental health, it's emotional health, it's time for reflection, and I've learned so much. And now that it's time for me to move away from this house in San Diego and to give this home to somebody else, I just wanted to give you a tour before I go of this gorgeous garden, a place of refuge and respite in a crazy world. So thank you for joining me on this garden tour. I'm Leslie Juvin-Acker.